Here's your wrestling news for December 2nd, 2020. And your headlines for today include WWE staff argued with Vince McMahon to change segment on Raw this week. Major mistake made during Randy Orton's moment with Alexa Bliss on Raw. Why WWE is cracking down on superstars and producers. Chyna's horrible experience when she visited WWE's headquarters in 2015. WWE talent reportedly frustrated with Bruce Prichard. Tragedy hits Ashley Massaro's family yet again. Is WWE giving away TLC matches on free television before pay-per-view? Lana spends ridiculous amount of money on her WWE ring gear. Lana banged up after match on WWE Raw this week. Nia Jax jokes about getting blamed for injuring so many superstars. Zelina Vega drops an interesting tease on Twitter. Ken Shamrock suspended by Impact Wrestling, and more. We're kicking off today with Raw, as this week's show saw Randy Orton use Alexa Bliss as a shield against The Fiend, but according to reports, this wasn't a popular segment backstage. PW Insider is reporting that the opening segment between Orton, Bliss, and The Fiend was completely Vince McMahon's vision, and there were several people who argued against the segment, feeling that opening Raw with Bliss's talk show was a weak way to start the show. Of course, any opposition was overruled by Vince himself, who's the ultimate decider in WWE, and Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter revealed that it's believed that Orton will be the master heel who turns Bliss and The Fiend babyface. It's speculated that the Viper will go one-on-one with Wyatt at TLC, but with plans constantly changing for the pay-per-view, it just goes to show how stressed things are backstage in WWE at the moment. Vince Russo certainly wasn't a fan of what happened, as he pointed out some significant flaws with the booking of the segment. During the SK Wrestling's Legion of Raw review show with Dr. Chris Featherstone, Russo noted that Bliss didn't seem too worried about being a hostage, noting, "Here's the biggest flaw. The lights go out, the lights come up, Alexa Bliss is in Randy Orton's arms. She's not fighting him, she's not trying to get rid of him, and that threw me off right there because it was like, she was staring at him like, what, she was in love with him? Right off the bat, I'm like, wait, she's not fighting him? It looked like she was staring him in his eyes like she was in love with him. Then The Fiend does his gimmick. Here's the funniest part, The Fiend puts his arms out, Orton transfers her over to The Fiend." Russo added that Orton immediately giving Bliss over to The Fiend may make no sense either, and Russo went on to explain that WWE should have booked Randy Orton to kidnap Alexa Bliss, which would have helped fill the 3-hour show. We'll have to see where this angle goes next, but what did you think of the segment? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Now, WWE always tries to get their shows to go out live, and one issue with that is sometimes the very exact time cues aren't met by those producing the shows. That should be a thing of the past though, as according to PW Insider, WWE has sent a strong edict inside the company, as they're tired of talent going over their allotted time on the show. It's reported that a number of talents were reprimanded in recent weeks leading up to Survivor Series for going over time, with producers also being chastised for segments going too long. That'll explain why some shows have ended suddenly in recent memory, as the WWE are rushing to finish things up, and the company is truly putting their foot down when it comes to meeting timed segments. Now, Chyna left WWE in 2001 and sadly passed in 2016 before she could ever return, but that doesn't mean the ninth wonder of the world never had an interaction with the company. That's according to her former manager Anthony Anzaldo, who spoke with Wrestling Inc. about a time when he and Chyna went to WWE headquarters to see if she was owed any royalties by WWE in 2015. He explained, "We stand out there and I say, 'Hello, my name is Anthony Anzaldo. I'm here to see somebody in business and legal in regards to whether or not my client, who's standing here next to me, Chyna, might happen to be owed some royalty. I don't know if she is or not, but I'd like to find out.' Within 15 seconds, there were 5 black suits in the lobby, all men and all saying to me, 'We're very sorry, but you guys are persona non grata and you're going to have to leave.' Why? What have we done? Sir, you're going to have to leave. What have we done? Why can't I see an accounting? Can I see Vince? Can you ask if Anthony and Chyna can see Vince? Sir, you're going to have to leave." Now they start moving towards us, so we left. It's interesting to think what could have been had WWE and Chyna been on better terms, as it's possible that the ninth wonder of the world would have been inducted into the Hall of Fame whilst she was still alive. Back to the present, as Vince McMahon and Bruce Prichard are in control of the current creative team, and people aren't happy. PW Insider is noting that some in the company describe Prichard as the most powerful person in WWE who's not in the McMahon family, and Vince treats Prichard's feedback like it's gospel. The report noted that there is a lot of frustration and heat with Prichard being expressed privately among the talent, with a lack of TV time being one of the biggest issues among the roster. With a stacked main roster, they aren't going to find time for everyone, and while some heat is being directed at Prichard, others have privately expressed frustration with WWE in general for hiring so many people just to stack their roster. PW Insider also noted that Triple H was at last night's Raw instead of Prichard, which several superstars called a breath of fresh air. Prichard's Something to Wrestle With co-host Conrad Thompson has said that Prichard is exhausted and very stressed, and it seems no matter what he does, he can't please everyone when it comes to the superstars and the fans. We've got some sad news to report now as tragedy has hit the Massaro family yet again. New York Daily News is reporting that Ronnie Massaro, the brother of Ashley Massaro, was murdered last month outside a pizza shop in New York City. Ronnie, who was 39, was stabbed on November 21st, and as previously noted, Ashley, the former WWE Diva Search winner, took her own life in May last year. Speaking about Ronnie's murder, Keith Hanlon, a friend of the Massaro family, said, "He got out of rehab and got on the train, and that was it. Out of a program and on the train, and not even 12 hours later, he was gone." Our deepest condolences go out to the Massaro family and Ronnie's friends in what must be an unimaginably hard time for them right now. We are looking at WWE TLC next, as the final pay-per-view of 2020 will have some huge matches take place, but WWE might not make it to December 20th. According to a report by Ringside News, some matches originally planned for TLC may now happen on TV, with a source within WWE theorizing that the company may have a SmackDown Tag Team title match between the Street Profits and Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler before December 20th. That same source also noted that a rumored Intercontinental title match between Sami Zayn and Big E could also happen on TV instead of at TLC, with the idea that having matches like these could help boost TV ratings, which have struggled in 2020. Whilst WWE once needed to have these big matches to sell pay-per-views, the WWE Network has completely changed how shows are marketed, as the monthly pay-per-view is just one show of thousands you get for paying $9.99 a month. As of right now, only one match has been confirmed for TLC between WWE Champion Drew McIntyre and AJ Styles, and we'll have to see which matches make it to the show and which happen on Raw or SmackDown. We are focusing on the WWE Network next, as the Slammy Awards are officially coming back. WWE confirmed that their awards show will return as part of their December lineup of programming, but didn't confirm when the Slammys will air. In the past, WWE have hosted the Slammys the night before WrestleMania, which is now booked for the annual Hall of Fame ceremony, and was moved to December when it was revived in 2008, with the last Slammys being in 2015. In its place, WWE has done year-end awards on social media, and the Slammys join new podcast episodes, WWE Superstar Gaming Series, and the 10 Best Matches of 2020 as just some of the new content to hit the network this month. Over to AEW next, as Tony Khan hired Miro after Rusev was released from WWE on April 15th, and firing the Bulgarian on Tax Day wasn't the only bad thing the company did to the former United States champion. During a media conference to hype tonight's Dynamite, Khan spoke about Miro, explaining just how poorly WWE treated him. He said, "Miro's going to be a big star here. It's really hard for people to come into AEW when you have a ranking system unless they come in at the start of a new year's cycle, and I didn't want to wait till January to bring Miro in. I thought he got beaten down so bad. I saw some ass on Twitter was like, this guy drove a tank at WrestleMania and now he's doing this, and I was like, yeah, then he got kicked in the nuts and they treated him like for years. He drove a tank out 5 years ago. That's not the guy I signed. The guy I signed has been abused for years and he's being rebuilt. He's going to be a huge star in wrestling, and he is a huge star. He's a huge name in wrestling, but he wasn't treated like it for a long time." Tony Khan knows Miro can get over with a crowd, and whilst things are only just beginning for Miro in AEW, Khan obviously realizes the Bulgarian's potential. More from Raw, as this week saw Lana continue her push on the red brand with an attire that certainly turned some heads. In a bedazzled red and black outfit, there was plenty of talk online about Lana's in-ring attire, and it was her husband who revealed just how much she's spending on her attire. Responding to a fan who said Lana's gear on Raw was incredible, Miro said that it should be, considering she spends around $100,000 a year on her gear. Lana can afford to spend that kind of money as she signed a multi-year, multi-million-dollar contract to stay with WWE last year. Lana obviously doesn't cut costs on her choice of attires, and that has drawn a considerable amount of attention, and that wasn't all Miro had to say about his bride. On a recent Twitch stream, Miro indicated that Lana's ankle was banged up in this week's Raw match, but added, "She will be back, she will push through." Miro added that he got Lana some ice and kept her leg elevated, as Shayna Baszler, aka Shayna the Shooter according to Miro, did a number on Lana's ankle this week. After weeks of bumps through the announce table, it's likely she'll be able to get through this sore ankle, and given her push, it may just be a matter of time before she adds championship gold to her expanding wardrobe. Lana's non-title tag team victory with Asuka over Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler was impressive, but also included a botch that fans couldn't help but notice. When one fan sent out a video of Lana pulling down the middle ropes too early, but Jax charging through the gap anyway, it was obvious that both women messed up, but Jax had an explanation. On Twitter, the WWE Women's Tag Team Champion joked that she was charging at Little Jimmy, R-Truth's invisible friend, and another fan tweeted at Jax not to hurt the imaginary child. Jax had another witty response while slinging some mud at all of the stories about how she's likely to injure superstars, as she said that the dirt sheets will already be reporting that she's legitimately injured Jimmy and he'll be out for 6 to 8 weeks. Though Jax does have a history of being involved in injuries, not all that she's been blamed for are her fault, and the champion was able to fire back at the dirt sheets and have some fun doing so. Raw also saw Elias continue his feud with Jeff Hardy in a Symphony of Destruction match that didn't go the way of the former 24/7 champion. During the match, Elias jammed the neck of a guitar into a speaker that electrocuted him in a spot that many fans online compared to Home Alone 2. With such a physical match, which Hardy won, this should end the pair's feud, and perhaps Elias will finally go back and watch the shows that happened during his hiatus that prove that Sheamus, not Jeff, attacked him months back. Zelina Vega news next, as the former superstar has teased something big coming soon. On Twitter, Vega was very excited about the phone call she'd just had, but didn't provide any more details other than a sea of OMGs. There's been speculation that Vega could join AEW when her 90-day non-compete clause with WWE ends, and whatever happens next, it's clear that Vega is extremely excited for it. Keith Lee news now, as the Limitless One is still relatively new in WWE, but his history with the company goes back further than you think. Speaking to Sports Illustrated, Lee spoke about how humbling it was to speak with The Undertaker when he worked as a WWE extra in 2008, and said they've been able to spend time together in what Lee called a 12-year friendship. With the Dead Man character officially, well, dead, The Undertaker has said he'd like to work as a WWE trainer, and we feel it'd be a great role for him to help shape the careers of superstars, including Keith Lee. And finally, we're ending with Impact Wrestling, as Ken Shamrock has been suspended for 30 days. On this week's show, Scott D'Amore served Shamrock his sentence for getting physical with D'Lo Brown last week, as Brown now works for Impact behind the scenes. D'Amore even threatened to increase it to 60 days before Sami Callihan was able to calm the Impact Hall of Famer down, and we expect Shamrock to be in a fighting mood when he's eventually allowed back in the ring.